All right, welcome to another episode of Mountaineer Kingdom Dude Talk. Real men, manly talk. I almost messed that one up.
Yeah. Use it right there.
Not as bad as that one we cut
But you
there.
saved it. We've always said we'll do it live. We couldn't do that one live.
You there for that one?
Yeah, I remember that one. Oh, yeah.
I'll share that with you later. It was good.
But if you say give or take.
Give or take. I'll cover it. Give or take. That's our opening.
Welcome to Mountaineer Kingdom Dude Talk.
Mountaineer Kingdom Dude Talk. You may see us in the same clothes as last week just because we're filming multiple in a day. I don't even know how to start this one.
Thanks for pointing it out.
This one opens up a can of worms. I do my best to not get fired up over stuff. This one gets me every time. So a lot going on in the news. From a sub sinking to our wonderful leader putting his hand on his heart for the Indian national anthem.
I still love the real slow, like, going down.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
There's definitely, you can see a bias, which we've seen in the news for a while, but there's definitely some more investigations, more people, one person's being focused on more than any other. Others are getting slapped on the wrists. And I keep asking myself, is it going to get any worse? Like, what am I going to be shocked by what happens tomorrow? And then typically there's at least one or two things like, oh,
It's
man,
worse.
they're really doing that.
Yeah. So can I give you a quick short answer to that? Yes. You will be shocked.
Every day?
Every day.
Every day.
And it's going to get worse.
So,
And then in the backup plans, like our backup choices, if something happens to the current leadership, it's not like, oh, it's just, I don't know.
so to tie into the national anthem thing, I don't know if it was before or after, but did you see him awkwardly holding hands with Prime Minister?
No, I couldn't take it. I had to turn it off.
And Jill was behind him trying to get in somewhere, and she was all confused to try to get. It's embarrassing.
Seth MacFarlane has got to do a Family Guy episode.
Oh yeah, it'll be there.
I'm surprised he didn't smell the guy when he came on stage. Smell curry.
Wow.
But it's
It's embarrassing. He's embarrassing our country. He's infuriating us. 90 million people did not vote for that guy. I still stand behind that. It didn't happen. So let's get into it.
Campaign.
I think
from
we
the
just did.
basement.
So, are you saying that because I might disagree a little bit on that one, but you're saying that there were definitely fake votes, or that there was the mass media outpouring of nonsense that pushed it the other way?
Both. I think both.
Okay.
I mean,
Both can be true.
There's documented proof that there were ballot dumps.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what state it was, but this just came out where one county alone had over 600,000 more dumped votes for Biden compared to 3,000 some for Trump. So when those are ballot dumps, they're idiots, but they're not that dumb. They're going to throw some Trump votes in there. But that's too big of a discrepancy in a lot of these states that he carried on this first election. But I'm not going to get into that because it is what it is. It's water under the bridge.
Yeah. Time to
But
move
what
on.
I'm just saying is this guy proves that every single day that he cannot lead this country. And every other country is laughing at us. If I was another country leader, I'd be laughing one and devising a plan.
And keeping him in office.
Well, maybe that or taking over.
So the video of President Biden slowly removing his hand from the Indian national anthem on my Instagram feed immediately after that was President Trump, or former President Trump, shaking 1,000 cadets' hands at graduation, and not just shaking their hands as they're getting their certificate of completion and diplomas and degrees and whatever, but saying something to each and every one of them.
And he stood on his feet the whole time?
And he didn't fall?
What,
He
did
didn't
you hear?
fall.
Did you hear the speech that came along with that?
No, I didn't.
Before all that happened, they asked. He was up there. He was saying, they kept asking me, "Am I going to stick around? Am I going to shake this guy's hand, or am I going to shake a few hands?" And he said, "No, I want to shake everyone's hand." I mean, he's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
He's a leader.
You're not passionate about this.
I
are
am
you?
passionate about it. Just you see, it's a night and day difference. And like Nick said, yes, he was on his feet, and that's just. And we'll just dive right back into where we're going with this. The media bias is, if you remember, where President Trump took a drink of water, was holding it in two hands. Did it look awkward? Probably. I don't drink water with two hands. But he said he spills water all over his tie every once in a while. So he was making sure he didn't spill it on national television. They're making fun of him, saying he's got mental problems. Let's declare the 25th Amendment.
The tiny hands.
The tiny hands. I said, let's get him out of office because he's not fit because he took a drink of water. Weird. Meanwhile, we got a guy falling upstairs. How do you fall upstairs? You can fall downstairs.
It's
But how
almost
do you
like
fall up them?
It's almost like a bad SNL skit. Like
Yeah.
you can't make this up.
No, you can't make it. Then he falls down on stage. He crashes his bike, and they're saying he's the best speaker in the White House we've ever had. He's competent.
So
The liberal bias is ridiculous.
He's his best speaker when you can't understand a single thing he says.
I brought America. It's true. I have 7 down for this.
America.
What do you think?
I like blonde hair on my legs.
When I was younger, I used to be by a pool, and these kids would come up and put their hands on my legs. And
Rub my
legs down. They like to see my hair pop. What are you talking about?
So you let kids molest you?
Listen,
What?
we'll not go to Epstein Island. That's where he went. We're not going to handle that. Okay. So let's get back to the. Let's go back to the liberal bias.
Hashtag Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah. What's going on today is an absolute cover-up. Trump announced he's running for presidency again, and then numbers are soaring. I mean, he is destroying Joe Biden in the polls, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this was all laid out because they all thought that he was going to announce. So then they decide to rush his home or whatever in Florida and get all this declassified documents that a president is allowed to have. And then he announces, and then he decides to indict. And what did President Trump do? He goes and pleads not guilty, and then goes to Bedminster and raises $2 million in less than an hour.
That is crazy.
I mean, they think they're hurting him, but they're making him and his base stronger, and they can't stand it.
And that's kind of I almost think that's a brilliant strategy to an extent. I don't know.
Martyrism almost.
I don't know what his chances are in a general election just because of the middle leftists.
I don't know. I think
I don't know if his base is big enough. I mean, it's
people are
huge.
waking up.
It's ginormous, and there's more and more joining every day. But I think they're almost pushing him because they think they got a sure thing.
Well, you see Joe Biden not even doing any type of campaigning, okay?
Or governing.
For his reelection. Or governing or leading or anything. But there was one
Come
clip
on,
I saw
man.
the other
He's not
day
even talking.
in the battleground of Pennsylvania. Trump scheduled a rally the same time Biden was going to be somewhere in Pennsylvania.
That's so smart.
Do you see the crowd difference?
Oh,
and it was
huge.
that way during the last election.
That's right.
Joe Biden hid in a cave, pretty much didn't do any campaigning. If he did, they had those stupid 6-foot circles for people, and 30 people were there. Meanwhile, Trump was having these big rallies. Don't tell me that Trump doesn't have a fan base and a following. And then the middle leftists, I think, if they're already middle left, they have at least half a brain. So they're thinking this guy is an absolute idiot, and they're also thinking, where was I 3.5 years ago compared to where I am now?
Yeah, I hope, man.
And so this whole indictment thing, this Hunter Biden, are you kidding me? All the evidence against this guy, video evidence.
Did you hear about the gun charges, which gets me the most?
Yeah.
For the party that is so about
Anti-gun.
life and keeping people protected.
Banning guns.
That he lied on the form, or that he wasn't addicted to any major drugs, felony.
Let's make new laws.
Make new laws. Well, and then I guess the girlfriend at the time, which was his brother's widow, threw the gun away in a trash can beside of a school. No joke. And the comments that he makes is, well, we're going to enforce the law, and if you lie on a form, you shouldn't have the right to own a gun, and you should spend jail time. Okay, well,
Except
fine.
my son.
Where's the jail time?
So,
Two-tiered system.
kind of back a little bit to if you're middle leftist, you still have half a brain. About 10 years ago, Bill Maher was the
True.
hard like the absolute hardcore left. He has become so modern, like centralized and a little bit more conservative, that even somebody as far left as his his ideology is, he's identifying more with the majority of the American people than the president and the president's minions are.
See, and that's not because his politics have changed. It's because everybody else
Right.
just went way
That's
the
how far
opposite
he
direction.
That's what I was going to
shifted.
say. I don't think he shifted towards conservatism. I think his eyes are being opened to their absolute hypocrisy.
And he's
And
calling
Renaissance.
it out. He has
Yep.
no problem calling it out.
Yep.
And he was as hardcore liberal as you could get. He was as much of a liberal as Rush Limbaugh was a conservative.
And he still is, but that just shows you the
How
nutsos.
far they've gone.
And I don't know why the extremes, even on both sides, the white extremists, I don't understand how they get such popularity. Well, one, I do. It's ratings,
Facebook.
right? It's ratings and weirdos that have to feel heard for some reason.
You mean who popularity?
Of the left extremists, like you start talking about Republicans and Democrats, and it always goes to Antifa, and not the Proud Boys, but white supremacists in general. It's never the hardworking mom and dads that are actually focusing on raising their family. It's all these losers that live in their mom's basement or out in a stick somewhere, and all they do is shoot anything they can see that get all of the attention.
So there was some executives at Facebook that had publicly, this was a couple years ago now, apologized to the world for what they've created with social media.
I'm sorry, world.
Yeah,
We messed up.
but it was not just the United States, but all the countries of the world, because what they've done is create such polarization in society to where we used to kind of operate a little bit more centered, and you go center right or center left a little bit, but you were never the absolute
fringe.
polar opposites of each other. And even if you were, you talked about it in a small group setting. You didn't talk about it for millions of people to hear about it.
Yeah.
And it's created such a polarization to everyone's ideology.
Well, I think that if they would have not contracted with evil, sold their soul or whatever, or just because it's all manufactured. I mean, and the Twitter files has proven this like crazy. That Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, it was being censoring all kinds of speech where you want to talk about election tampering. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of it, and the 51 FBI agents that were involved with all this. So I think we're seeing a bigger picture of not only ballot harvesting, how they were trying to do that in some ways, but just the way that the FBI and the CIA and the government was working hand in hand with Twitter and and Facebook and Instagram to censor information. Now they're trying to call it misinformation.
And then
I think that's what
they fact check it. And then
The
people that
fact
are
checkers
ignorant,
are
they
just-
just say, "Oh, okay, they fact checked that. I
Right.
believe it now." Instead
Okay,
of
who fact checked it, and what's their
See,
agenda?
Even that,
Wikipedia.
even that was like a sellout.
Yeah.
You know, the fact check. So, I mean, here once again, here's a great tool, a great resource, but it was in the hands of evil. Mm-hmm. It was manipulated to where truth couldn't get out. Where I think there was a big issue in election tampering, because how does someone, unless there's a new revelation that you get elected by not doing anything and staying in your basement, that makes you a winner.
yeah.
That doesn't happen.
No, I called it the election night. I've never seen. I've seen a few elections in my lifetime. I'm not that old, but I've seen a few. I've never seen live coverage where the person running against the incumbent came already onto a stage in the middle of it and have a rally and say, "Don't worry, Pennsylvania,
We got it.
we got it." When the numbers were shooting up for Trump at that time, don't worry, we got it. And all of a sudden, we lose. Let's not go too deep there. Let's go back to the media bias.
Go ahead.
Well, this whole thing now with this declassified argument why Trump was indicted, they're also throwing in this stupid thing still with his payoff to Stormy Daniels, whatever. Do I agree with that? No. Is there a law that says you can't pay someone to be quiet?
No.
No.
Not in New York, right?
No, there is no
Man,
law.
the man's due a receipt and his money back.
Right.
So where there's some complexity with that is where the hush money comes from.
Well, I agree
Is
with
it a
that.
campaign
It's a
contribution?
campaign contribution. So like I had dinner with at the time he was a U.S. setting U.S. congressman who was complaining about other members of Congress doing this, and then he ended up getting nailed too because he had used campaign funds for hush money and had to
How much
resign
was
his
it, by
seat.
the way, to Stormy?
It wasn't
Was it
very much.
110,000?
Okay.
Or
So
something?
how were they able to tell? Trump probably pulled 110,000 out of his wallet. How did they trace that to campaign money?
His lawyer.
Oh yeah,
It was
that's
all
right.
funneled
Okay.
through.
Well,
Now,
so anyway, they're tying all this stuff into one large indictment, right? But the main thing is the classified documents he had in Mar-a-Lago, whereas Joe Biden had more documents, if I remember the numbers correctly, in his garage. And there's still people like, well, let's just say liberal commentators on liberal shows. They're denying that even happened. Like, what are you talking about? Documents found.
there's
in
stuff
Joe
back
Biden's
there from the
garage.
70s.
Yeah, and he was never vice president at that time or president, and that's even more illegal for him.
Yeah.
But no one's talking about it.
Well, no, and the other thing that stuck out to me, I think you might have referenced it in the Durham report, when he came out, and there is concrete evidence that obviously we knew that the Clinton campaign paid for the dossier. The leaders of the CIA and the FBI, so Comey and I forget the other guy's name.
McCabe?
Well, that's the FBI, but I forget the CIA guy's name. They were all notified of this. They did not share that information with some of the people on the teams leading these investigations. So the bias is we have no evidence saying it's not true. We have only evidence saying that it is true. So when you get information or you have a conversation with somebody, you're already predetermined in your head of a path you need to follow. But if Comey or McCabe or any of the leaders would have came out and gave their agents the actual information, then they could have went into it with a little less blinders on. Because everything they turn up, they're telling their men on the field in the fields, nope, it's still looking this way. It's still looking this way. Pursue. Instead of saying maybe we should ask a few other questions. Durham was even talking about that some of the top senior agents that he interviewed personally, when he shared that information with them, they almost resigned. Like they got up with lawyers and went out and were storming and making phone calls, and then they would come back in and answer questions. It's like, yeah, well, we had no idea that was the case at the time. They later find out, of course, because I forget the one guy's name, saying, "Don't worry, this train's still rolling. We're going to do anything that we can to bring the guy down."
Is that Struck?
Yes.
Page?
Yeah.
Yep. But that never happened. Adam Schiff got censored, so let's focus on the censor, and let's not still focus on the facts that were in this document
Right.
and this investigation. If all investigations are important, why is this the one that doesn't count? It's because the left are in the pocket. They're trying to persuade the next election, just like they did the other one.
They were all also about trying to get Trump's tax returns, how much money he didn't pay taxes on, all this stuff.
I don't
But here
care.
people are, well, I don't care either, because there's loopholes. And Trump even said it during his debate with Hillary. He said, I try not to pay taxes. He said, I pay very little in taxes.
'Cause that makes me
That's
smart.
the law. If you don't like it, he said, because it makes me smart. If you don't like it, Hillary, how come you didn't change it in the last 45 years you were in
Yeah.
Congress, whatever. So they want his tax returns, but yet now people are calling for, what is the source of Joe Biden's income? He's never had a job, really.
Ever. Well, he worked at that pool back in the 40s.
Where the kids rubbed him.
Yep. With
Yeah.
Corn Pop.
Yeah.
Corn Pop.
Remember Corn Pop?
So that's my big thing. All these people that are, even Republicans, they make $174,000 a year as public servants. Okay. And they've been in there some 20, some 45, some 50 years. And these big time names that are getting all the recognition and stuff, they're worth upwards to 50 to 100. McConnell, I think I saw $150 million. What's your source of income? It's called hand behind the back. I'll do this. You pay me.
Yeah.
So it's all corruption. So I want to make it perfectly clear that Democrats and Republicans in D.C. are just the same.
Yeah.
There are some that have a backbone, but even you're seeing now, they're trying to back away from Trump too, because they don't want to lose their political.
So
career.
I spent a few years in political consulting and with different governors and folks running for U.S. Senate and House. And for the most part, there isn't that much of a difference between the candidates, other than the R or the D after their name. And you have your handful of outliers out there. The what's the senator from Texas?
Crenshaw.
No, Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have your Ted Cruzes out there that are legitimately exactly who they portray themselves on TV is exactly who they are away from the camera. But there's so many of them that when they're on TV, they're playing the game. They're going after the campaign, the votes, and they'll lean further right or further left to get their base shored up before they go into the general. And then you usually kind of see them go a little bit more to the center. Well, when you talk to them outside of talking to their donors, and they often, you ask them how much do you think you're actually going to be able to get done? There's none of it, but it brings in the money, and that's really what the majority of the politicians are.
As soon as they get elected, they're already running for re-election.
Oh, they have to. Yep.
Immediately. They're not doing what they promised. And again, I'll just throw this out there. Who is the only one that's ever delivered on campaign promises?
But no, I'm just kidding. Trump.
Trump.
I couldn't even get it out. But
But I agree with you. It's all about follow the money. It's all in anything. Follow the money, and it's all crooked. It's all backward.
could you imagine? Just take the exact climate situation or political climate situation that we're in now. Everybody that has a D or an R in front of their name or after their name, just switch it and ask yourself, would you still feel the same way? Personally, I think I would. So if Biden's a Democrat or Biden's a Republican and Trump's a Democrat, I would feel the same way because I want truth to matter. I want these things to be important. And I don't think to the investigators in the media, I think that if Biden was in the situation that Trump's in, they would cover, they would defend, they would take everything they could. And if Trump had a D beside his name, he would be their best friend. Because it's all whose camp you're in and whose team are you playing for. And Trump's a disruptor. He's coming in with hand grenades and blowing everything up. In my opinion, a good way.
So I've talked to a lot of people. This is years ago, some of this dated information, but I talked to some people who were senior ranking officials in former White Houses and different levels of the government. And a lot of them said if you actually look at the classified data that comes in, you see that the majority of the conservative Republicans have it correct based on what the real data actually shows of the threats against the United States, the threats internally against the citizens, and how the economy works. The conservatives tend to have it a little bit more accurate. Now, granted, in full disclosure, most of these folks were conservative in nature, but
Well, I think that rings true. There's just so much information, I'll quote that, available to us. We don't even know what's real.
yeah, well, they get to see like the raw data.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
We don't get let us see it. There's graphs and bars and all kinds of stuff all over the internet that we can look at. But then once someone will say, "Well, I found this on another web page," because it's all contradictory. Contradictory? Yeah.
Sure.
And then you say, "There's the truth. Well, give us the real numbers." Let us make our own decision. Give us the real numbers.
But they say, and some of these folks were in different agencies in the government, and their response back to that was, it's classified information that can't be shared due to security of the country.
So it's damaging information to your party, is what I hear.
Damaging information to the United States. And in our interest. I mean, Andy was talking about this a couple weeks ago, in that there's a lot of stuff that he wouldn't have been able to share had he still been in the military.
True.
And it's due to national security, and there's a lot of that actually does or shouldn't be shared because it does go against our interests, not only here in America but also abroad.
Is there anything, and feel free to anybody to answer this, is there anything that that would change your current support for your opinions on Republicans, Democrats? Like in the Trump scandal, the Trump witch hunt, what would it take for you to see? It's like, maybe they do have a point. What would you have to see
For me to go to support the left?
to support the end of that investigation?
Oh, okay.
I
thought just in general, because if I were going to support the left, they'd have to completely change everything that they do.
Right.
Absolutely.
I thought that's where you're going with that too.
No, so just in this,
For me, and I've said this for a couple of years, if they had hard evidence, and convicted Trump of what he has done, I would say, okay, I was wrong. But how much have they gone after him for the past 6 years and have come up short every single time? There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. In fact, it's always turned around that it was the left's fault. Mm-hmm. And they're doing. So I will stand by my word. If they were to come out and in a real court of law show me evidence, show me factual evidence, factual reasons why President Trump could not have had those classified documents, factual evidence that they were still classified, not declassified like he said, then I would say, okay, I was wrong.
You got him.
So, okay, he can't run. Maybe, I don't know, you got to go to jail, whatever. I'm not just a Trump guy. We've said this. I'm a Trump guy, but I'm not a Trump worshiper. I think he was doing a great job as president because, like you said, he was a disruptor, and that's why they hated him.
Yep.
They had their things set in plan. Obama had it all on a platter for Hillary to take, and Trump stole that. So that's why they're all angry at President Trump. So it would have to take an absolute dump of real factual evidence for me to say I was wrong about Trump.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and what I'm thinking is that he who lays a trap, may he himself fall into it.
Yeah.
And they are. And, I mean, every time they bring something up, they find out that it was Hillary Clinton or it was the left that was actually colluding or
go all the way back to the
Soros.
Russian collusion stuff.
Absolutely.
And then it turns out it was Hillary.
The private meeting on the airplane.
Right. Absolutely. So all of that all of this, whatever's happening, is really exposing the left like crazy. I mean, just laying them open. And they have to keep trying to figure out a way that they get the narrative back to Trump. Well, the more that they do that, the more that they are exposing themselves. I cannot see how these people are happy at any point. They have to be miserable people because as soon as they try one strategy, it falls on its face. And then they another strategy and it falls on its face.
They're constantly brooming their tracks in the snow behind them. Constantly living that way.
And the thing about the Trump worshiper comment, yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't want to be somebody who's so hard and sold out for Trump that I'm ignoring facts and things that have been done. But when you take a step back and realize that there is a two-tiered system, and why is it that Trump gets to be mulled over and buried while someone on the left gets to just run scot-free? It's just ridiculous.
He's the whipping post. He's the whipping boy for everything that's going on. How much time? We're going to wrap up right now. Great. Man, there's just so much you can go into this stuff.
Yeah,
but
there's an hour more of this.
There's a good thing my hope is not in our government and the system, and my hope is in the Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
Well, I mean, just one quick thing is when it comes to this election, who ultimately wins is going to be who God has decided needs to win this election to either hold back the rapture and tribulation for a little bit longer or to push us that much closer to it.
Words and timing.
Colliding. That's right.
Oh.
You'll get that if you watch the first
last week's
Words and
episode.
timing colliding.
That's it. Fair enough. All right, Mr. Nicky.
Nicky.
Yes, and it takes off.
Oh goodness. Oh my! Now I'm all befuddled there.
It's Jared.
That's a good word.
Matt Fraps and Andy, Coach Ryan, host Josh, and Nick the Nicky.
Nikki.
As always, we appreciate you tuning in to this episode, and make sure you go back and watch all our previous episodes. Great stuff as always from you guys. That's what we love here. That's why we do this. We're talking about real men, manly talk, and that is exactly what our goal is, to come in here, sit down, have these talks, have these podcasts, have our shorts. We're funny. We try to have a good time. We're teaching real stuff. That's my biggest point with that is we're coming in here. We're just being true to who we are. You're getting a glimpse of what we do when the cameras and the mics aren't on. We sit around a campfire and we tell dumb stuff to each other, and then flick the switch. We're right back into serious mode, just like we do here. So you're just getting a sneak peek of what we are doing on a regular basis. So make sure that you check out.
Sorry.
He's got 10 minutes to close. Ryan doesn't have to leave till 8:30.
That's right.
I just need this over with.
Make sure you check out our website at mkdudtalk.com to check up on all of us, to learn more about us, to see our previous episodes, some of our shorts. If you'd like to reach out to us in any way, or maybe have a comment, or would like to hash out some things, that's our email at mkdudtalk@gmail.com. And we are on most of the social platforms now, so check out those as well. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you're getting all of the latest things coming from Mountaineer Kingdom Dude Talk. So for the yes man, Jared.
You forgot his name.
I ran out of breath, to be quite honest with you. I had to take a McJ Matt, the coach Ryan, our host Josh, and of course the vacationing, not here, Andy. I am Nick. For what?
Nikki.
Nikki, no, thank you.
Nikki.
Mountaineer Kingdom Dude Talk, real man, manly talk.